Hello, welcome to episode 60 of the Fluffy Fibres podcast. I'm so glad that you could join me today. I'm so happy to be here with you on this wonderfully sunny spring day of late April 2018. My name is Isabelle and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Fluffy Fibres, and you will find the show notes for the episode on fluffyfibres.com. Thank you so much for returning if you have already watched the podcast before, and welcome if you're finding this podcast for the first time. I do very much hope you enjoy. This is a podcast about all my attempts at building a handmade wardrobe through my various fibery activities, sewing, knitting especially, but also spinning and even some now also weaving. So I do hope you enjoy. I do have lots to share with you today, so I think I'm just going to jump into the actual content of the podcast. And first of all, though, I did want to thank you all very, very much for all your lovely and very kind and very encouraging feedback after my previous episode, episode 59, where I tried to change the format of the podcast, and I very much enjoyed doing this, and apparently from the feedback that I've received, a lot of you did enjoy the result, so I'm very, very pleased about that. And I have had so much fun filming little snippets of my making over the past few weeks since I last recorded, and it's just really lovely actually to be really mindfully making and thinking how to incorporate this, just to try and sharing the joy of the making and the serenity that it brings me as well. So thank you so much for encouraging me in this, on this path, down this path, and I will definitely be continuing to do this because it's really, it very, very much resonates with me. So yes, so today's episode, besides all these snippets of making, will include my cup of tea, although I probably should have just brought up a glass of water today because it's really, really warm. It's 28 degrees at the moment, I believe. So my cup of tea, a handmade wardrobe, events with very, very exciting things, a bit of sewing, a bit of knitting, and new segment, a bit of weaving. So lots of things to share with you today, so let's just get cracking with it, shall we? So for my cup of tea today, I'm having something which is very, very spring-like, which is Clippy's infusion. So it's strawberry and elderberry infusion. It's made, of course, in England. It's an organic tea. I love this brand of tea, I really do love, and I love their packaging as well. It's so cheerful. I just love it so very, very much. So it's called Mes Belles Gambettes, which is a casual word for so mes belles, my beautiful, gambette is a casual word for legs, for jambes in French. So I think it's supposed to, I guess, increase blood circulation or that kind of thing. I just picked it because it was very spring-like, and I love red fruit infusions. So yeah, but it is really, truly delicious. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to be brewing some, cold brewing some. Now that it's really getting warm, so that because I feel this would really well cold as well. So for a handmade wardrobe, I have a couple of things, actually 3 things. I have first of all my top, which is something I finished last autumn, and it is the Summer Haze Tea by Simone Perrate. And I really, really love it. And I believe it's a very underrated pattern on Ravelry. It doesn't have a lot of projects posted on Ravelry, but I do really very much like it. And so there are so many lovely finishing details in this piece. So I don't think I ever wear this on the podcast. I remember showing it off finished, but I'm not sure I ever wear it on the podcast. So as you can see, it's got lots of shaping. And not at the seams, but actually in the shape of darts. So darts there, darts at the back as well, which is great when you have some sort of a sway back like I do. I really like, and I have a very narrow back as well, so I really like this kind of shaping in the back. I actually tend to add shaping like this in my dresses when I sew, to add some darts like this at the back when they're not included in the pattern. So you do have some short rows at the back as well to bring the neckline down at the front, and a lot of people on Ravelry seem to complain about the top actually falling up their shoulders, but it doesn't at all for me. And I knit it out of French yarn, which is Olympe by Bouton d'Or, I believe. Yes, Olympe by Bouton d'Or, which is a 50% cotton and a 50% modal mix, which is a relatively more eco-friendly man-made fibre. So it's obviously not as eco-friendly as a completely raw plant fibre, or obviously as wool, but it is, when it comes to man-made fibres, it is one of the less polluting ones, so that's a good thing. Yeah, it's very nice and breathable for the summer. I mean, for the spring especially. I probably won't be wearing this in the summer in Montpellier when it's really hot, but for our kind of weather right now it's perfect. And I am wearing this over a sewing project that I sewed this year, but for some reason completely forgot to mention on the podcast. I remember mentioning my plans of sewing this, but somehow this project never made it onto Instagram and never made it onto the podcast. So these are the Sew Over It ultimate trousers. I made them out of a navy, very dark navy, almost black, cotton, and cotton twill. Pretty, yeah, not a super thick cotton twill. Cotton twills can be really heavyweight. This is a medium weight cotton twill. But yeah, I think it's maybe a bit big at the hips and thighs. Maybe I could take them off, take them in a bit. I'm not sure. I don't know where I cut pants very often, to be honest, and I'm not really sure how fitted this should be, you know. Okay, so this podcast is off to a very interesting start already, because my battery was completely flat actually, so I just had to stop recording. I just have one battery, so I just had to stop recording, let the battery charge for a bit and work while it was charging. And so now I'm back a couple of hours later. I did refill my tea, so all is good. And so I was talking about the trousers I was wearing, and yes, I think I was saying that it is a great pattern if you're dipping your toes into trouser making, because it's got a side zip, and so the zip in is part of the side seam, and so there's less fitting, and I guess it's a much easier fit, and there are a lot less steps involved as well. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying, I am really not much of a trousers wearer, and to be honest, I have hardly worn them, and that is really because I just live in dresses and skirts, and I guess I feel the more life goes on and the more the less I am wearing trousers actually. So my mom actually did remark on this. She was visiting us a few weeks ago, and she did remark that I was never wearing trousers anymore. So yes, but I still wanted to have them in my wardrobe. I think they're a good staple to have, and they were part of my Make 9 for 2018 as well. So I think they were the third thing that I made for 2018 for my Make 9, or rather Make 12 in my case. But yeah. And the third thing that I'm wearing that is handmade is actually my little bracelet, which is quite special because I made it with my daughter. Last summer, at the end of last summer, we took a polymer clay class together, a female class. together, and each of us made a bracelet, and so this is the one I made. Very, very fun. We really did have a ball, and it matches really well my top. And her bracelet is completely awesome because it is, she did little monster eyes on her beads, which turned out so fun. So yes, that was a great experience. But yeah, so for events today, I did want to share a couple of very exciting things. Well, first of all, just to follow up on last time's giveaway. So I did have a giveaway last time I recorded that ended on Sunday, the 22nd, and I did draw the winners using random.org. The winners have been notified, and so yes, this is all taken care of now. So thank you so much for participating, and thank you so very much to Kristin of Wool and Vine Yarns and Wool and Vine Designs for offering her something Wicked Mitts pattern as a prize. Thank you so very, very much to Ellie of Skein Knits Podcast and Designs, who offered her Succulester collection, which is completely amazing as well. And to Mina of Knitting Expert Podcast and Knitting Expert Designs for also offering her Changes shawl as a prize. So giveaway time is not over. I have been mentioning for, I think, a couple of episodes now that I recently reached 5,000 followers on Instagram and subscribers on YouTube, and it just feels completely crazy to me, and I'm very, very humbled by this number and by the number of people who, the increasing number of people who also do reach out and tell me how much they appreciate my Instagram pictures and the podcast and my stance really on making, and that really is so important to me, and I did want to thank each and every one of you, and so as part of this thankful time, I just started a giveaway on Instagram, even though when this podcast will be live it won't have just started, but I did start it on Tuesday and the 24th of April, and it's going to run for a whole week, so until May, the 1st of May. I think the end date is 8 PM my time, Paris time, which is GMT +2 or British Summer Time +1, and so we have such lovely prizes for this, and I really need to thank from the bottom of my heart my very dear friend Erin, who offered a couple of prizes, and for this Instagram giveaway the prize, the masterpiece really of this prize, is this beautiful, beautiful skein of BFL sock yarn in all these gorgeous shades. So it's a variegated skein with some purples and blues and spring greens and some speckles with pink speckles as well. Such a gorgeous, gorgeous skein. So it's not only variegated but it's also speckled. I do hope you can see this really well, because it's very hard for me to know if the camera is focusing well actually, but I do hope it is focusing on this gorgeous skein. But yeah, it is such a special, special skein, so cheerful, so absolutely perfect for spring. Isn't this the epitome of spring? I just love it, I absolutely love it. And so this is part of the Instagram giveaway, and the other part of the giveaway is this little pouch, which I call a Knitter's Care package rather, which I sewed up just before I went to Edinburgh. I sewed up a dozen of these, and I gave quite a few to friends in Edinburgh. That was really super special. But I did make a few extra to give away for you, especially those of you who couldn't be in Edinburgh. I thought that would be very nice for you to see. So there is my little badge in there, and there will be a little card. So there's a tiny little lavender sachet that I also made with fresh lavender, well, dried lavender rather, organic local lavender, which is local to me. Yes, the lavender is directly into the little sachet, so don't open it unless you want to refresh it or, you know, refill it, but yeah. And it's closed with a little bit of vintage lace, vintage French lace. Back when I was living in Paris, I used to love doing the vintage markets for lace, and I have a ton of vintage lace now in my stash of lace, if I can call that a stash. I guess I can. And so yes, I use that to close it up. And you have a little notebook, which is also French because it's made by Clairefontaine, which is a very well-known, I guess, paper company, which I really like. I think that their paper is such great quality. I really do love it. So yes, so there's this. So it's perfect in a knitting bag, of course. You can use it as the knitting bag book if you're doing the knitting bag book whole movement that was initiated by my dear friend Patricia. So that would be I think a great one for this. Or if you just use little bullet journals for your projects or anything else really, or to doodle. So there's also my little card in there, fluffy fibres card with the little kitty also there behind, sleeping away. Then you have a soap. So a soap also made in Provence, organic, by Avril Cosmetics, which is one of my favourite cosmetics company. It's French, and they've got a wonderful range of organic products, especially makeup. That's how I came to know them, but they've really developed their range now. And they recently opened a shop in Montpellier, which I was thrilled about, and so of course I had to go and support them. And so I got loads of little soaps to fill up these bags. So this one is fig scented, and it's really lovely. So there's this. Then there's a little nail polish also by Avril Cosmetics. It's 7 free nail polish. So sadly you can't make organic nail polish, at least not yet. But the more eco-conscious companies have been trying to develop formulas that are less toxic. So this one is free of the 7 toxic, most toxic elements that you can find in nail polish. Of course, because I have children, I'm extra careful about this. I will never apply my nail polish near them anyway. But still, I'm still very also for myself, of course, for my own health, I'm still very conscious about that, and of course for the environment. So yes, this particular shade is really lovely for summer. I love putting on this shade for summer. It's Rose Bollywood, so Bollywood pink. If you're ever curious, 57, the shade 57. I love this company. I love the mascara. It's super natural and it's super nice. I mean, it's super black, very buildable, so it looks like a really high-end mascara in my mind. And what I love about this brand is it's made in France, eco-conscious, most of their stuff is organic, and apart from this really, actually. And it's very affordable as well. The mascara, I think, is €7, so that's really wonderful. I love their lipsticks as well, and yeah. So after that, you do have a few goodies to sustain yourself when you're knitting. So this is the only non-organic thing here, or non-natural. It's chocolate by Côte d'Or, but it's very French. It's a brand we have a lot in France, and it's very dark chocolate, which is typically what people, I think, tend to favour in France as well. And then you have a couple of bags of tea from one of my favourite French companies, Love Organic. Love is a pun, because love in, I think, Swedish means leaf. So it's a pun on love and love. So in this particular bag you're going to get a mint green tea, organic green tea, and a aniseed and fennel infusion. So yes, So the second bag, so this is for the Instagram giveaway. So to participate, you just need to go there on the post, find the post, comment. You don't even need to tag anyone. You can if you want to. That's really lovely, and I do appreciate you tagging friends. And of course, if you want friends to know about the giveaway as well, I completely understand. But I don't make this a requirement to participate, because this is a giveaway to thank you. But the other requirement is also that you follow my friend Erin, because she did donate this gorgeous skein, and she does dye amazing yarn. So that just felt, you know, it just seemed to make sense to follow her as well for that. So this is the Instagram giveaway, but I also want to launch a YouTube giveaway, because this is the 60th episode, and we also have reached over 5,000 subscribers here, and I think it was high time we had a little giveaway. So in this giveaway you're going to have a similar pouch. Also, this pouch is from a very special fabric, because the fabric was sent to me by a viewer of the podcast, Mary in Canada. Hello Mary, if you're watching. And she sent me this gorgeous fabric so not this Christmas but the previous one, because we had a tea sew along back then, and so it is all tea related, very, very me. And so she sent me, I think, a yard of it, and it's all almost gone from sewing all these little bags. But I felt it was so, so meaningful to use this fabric to give back, you know, to friends and to the podcast, to you, to the viewers of the podcast. And so in this particular little pouch you have the same, exactly the same things, but not necessarily the same fragrances or colours. So the soap, for instance, is almond scented. This is my favourite one, the almond one. I just love almond scents. The little notebook has different hands on it. This really makes me think very, very much of Maria at Ninja Chickens, for obvious reasons. Then you have different teas as well. So you have one of my favourites, jasmine green tea. And this is my absolute favourite tea from their whole range. Love is Beautiful. I think I was drinking it either last time I recorded or the previous time. But it's a huge, huge favourite, all-time favourite of mine, and definitely my favourite of the whole Love brand, really. And then the nail polish is a softer shade. It's a very, very wearable shade. I think it's a very, very wearable pink, also one that I really like very much. And it's Rose Tendre, number 472, so it's soft pink, I should say. So yeah, very spring-like colour. So this is the first prize in the YouTube giveaway. The second prize, in keeping with this soft pink tone theme, is this beautiful, beautiful range of minis by also my good friend Erin, who has been so generous to the podcast. So I'm going to remove them from their packet so that you can see them properly. So here they are. I do hope this is focusing. But here they are. So a lovely gradient from purple, dusky purple, dark, yeah, dusky mauve to a corally red. So I just love this gradient. And so this is a very generous prize as well. And so I did want to show you once more Erin's card, which I'm holding upside down, but which I really do love very, very, very much. So I do hope this is focusing, but I just absolutely love her logo, her card. It's so her. It's so in keeping with her own aesthetics. So yeah. So Erin, thank you so, so, so much for these amazing prizes. And as part of this giveaway as well, the second giveaway, Danny of Little Bobbins has very, very kindly offered her latest design. Danny has been so very prolific with her sock designs lately, and she just published her third design in the Vintage Love collection, so her fourth sock design total since Christmas. And this design celebrates marriage, and so this last design, after the Cyril socks and the Rita socks, which each celebrated the epitomized really the couple. Now both of these figures are entwined in the forever and always socks, and so I'm just so amazed by the thoughtfulness that Danny puts into these sock designs, because first of all, really in terms of technicality, I'm knitting both two of her sock designs at the moment, and her designs are just so thorough in terms of detail, and the hills are always different, and the hill construction is really clever, and everything is thought out so well. I can see how much work and time she must have devoted to each of these designs, because they're just, everything falls into place so perfectly, really. And I do encourage you to read the whole description that Danny gives to this design, because it's very, very touching, and I love when designs have so much depth to them and thoughtfulness to them. I just absolutely love the whole collection and the whole spirit behind it, and I can't wait to see what Danny comes up with next, because it's going to be brilliant, I know it. So Danny, congratulations, and thank you so much for offering your beautiful design as a giveaway. So this will be part of this, is it the 60th episode giveaway. And also I would like to offer one of my designs as a prize as well. So whatever you prefer. I have two shawl designs that are paid for on Ravelry. I have the Bomb Bomb shawlette, and it's a shawlette or a shawl depending on the yarn weight and the shape you use. There are really two patterns in it. Or the Verdure shawlette, which is very timely, because I did design it during the spring, and it's got a leaf border, and it uses one skein of fingering weight yarn. So yeah, that would be a nice one to knit at the moment. And I'm just realising I never said how to participate in the YouTube giveaway, which is completely silly of me. But yeah, to participate, just enter a comment under this episode on YouTube, so that you get a chance to win. So yes, that is it for our fun giveaways and events. And now let's move on to what you're all here for, which is sewing and knitting and all this happy making. So for a bit of sewing, I mentioned last time that I wanted to do Selfless Sewing Month for the month of April. This is something that was launched by Sew Over It, Lisa Comfort of Sew Over It, and I did want to take part because as I mentioned last time, I have loads of children to sew for, which is always wonderful. And sadly, I didn't get around to making as many things so far. I haven't gotten to making as many things as I would like, mostly because, as you obviously will have gathered from the beginning of this podcast, we went away last week for a whole week in the Cévennes mountains, which is not far at all from Montpellier, so we are very, very fortunate in having amazing landscapes and scenery and gorgeous wild nature just an hour or a couple of hours away from Montpellier. And we had just a week of glorious spring weather, and it was just wonderful because we were able to see from when we came, the first day we came, it was still quite cool, and it had rained in the morning and nature was still drowsy, if I may, and then during this whole week we could see spring come to the mountains. Really, we could see you know, flowers blossoming during the course of this week, birds coming on the trees, and it was absolutely wonderful. So yes, a bit of a tangent here, very sorry, but yeah. So it does mean that because I wasn't there last week and it was my week of holidays, I haven't been able to sew as much as I would have liked to. However, I do have lots of plans, and I will be continuing on Selfless Sewing Month, you know, a bit further in May probably, but that's completely fine. So I did finish one thing though yesterday, and I'm extremely happy about it. So I did finish this little thing. So this is the Breezy Romper by Brindille and Twig. I have made loads of their patterns in the past. I just absolutely love their patterns. And this is one of their newest patterns. and it's absolutely gorgeous, and I just love it. I do feel with time each of their patterns is getting better with time in terms of details, and this one is certainly really nice with the placket, and yeah, it's really lovely. I love the little sleeves as well. You have the option to omit the sleeve and just do a band for the armholes, but I do like to add sleeves on little kids' summer things, summer clothes, because we live in the south, and the sun is brutal here, and I'm just always concerned when my children don't have actual shoulders on their clothes, that they're going to get sunburnt. So I'm always careful to add. So I do appreciate wider shoulders like that. Although this is not for a Montpellier child. This is for my very dear friend Julie. She has a 1-year-old daughter, and I made it for her as a late birthday present. And Julie is a viewer of the podcast, and hello Julie! But I did ask her not to watch the podcast until she received the parcel, so it's all fine. She will be watching it if she has time after after she's received it, so that she does have the surprise, so that's all fine. But yeah, the fabric is an organic cotton jersey from Rico Design. So yeah, and you can see that I have 2 different sets of snaps here. So I usually use cam snaps, which are the resin snaps. That's usually what I use for children's clothes, and I have been increasingly frustrated with them. It can be really hit or miss when you set them. They can come apart after a few uses. So it's a bit of a shame. If it's for my kids, it's no biggie, because I can then just put another snap in. But if it's for a gift, then it's a bit of a hassle. And for instance, these 2 are fine, but this one, for some reason, is super hard to snap, and especially to snap open. And I just feel they really do weaken fabric. You know, you always get really frightened, because you really do have to pull quite hard. I'm always frightened I might tear the fabric, even though this is interfaced, and you know, there are a couple of layers of fabric. But so actually I'm just going to ask Julie not to use this one. You don't really need it really to close this and for this to look neat, so I'm just going to ask her not to use this middle one. But so because I got really frustrated, and also because I had been inspired by my good friend Liz Taylor, coucou Liz, who sews so many beautiful children's clothes, and she uses these snaps, this kind of metal snaps and ring snaps, and I've never dared to use these. I've always been very intimidated by these, and actually thinking about this week, I realised it's because way back when, in the very first years of my sewing, probably the first year I was sewing, I think 2005, I made corsets. I loved making corsets back then, and I was super frustrated with eyelets, which you set with the same kind of method. It's the same kind of principle. So metal eyelets, and they tended to pop, especially in one of my corsets, which was my favourite corset because I made it in a brocade fabric, and I did win a prize for this online. But the eyelets tended to just pop out, which was super frustrating. But now, with hindsight, I just realised I think it wasn't a good match of eyelets and fabrics with this very slippery fabric, and all the thickness that you have, all the layers of fabric that you have in a corset. So I just realised setting these, that it was a very different story. So I just spent the last 13 years of my life intimidated by these, and so using these instead. And finally I did, you know, set these 3, and I realised how easy it was, ridiculously easy, and how well they work. And the way they are set into the fabric, you don't have stress on just one point, you do have stress around the whole area of fabric. And so, and they do tend to get easier, you know, it's the case as well with the cam snaps, you know, if you open them up and close them for a few times, they do get easier to use. But it's even more the case for these. And I felt so silly, you know, having been intimidated by these, whilst they are so much easier to use than these. And so much, I think, ergonomic and practical to use. And so I did have this in my arsenal that I just dug out. It's called a snap setter. I know there are loads of different tools rather, to set these snaps, but I have this. So it's called a snap setter. So this one is 16, but I did use 10mm snaps on this. Maybe that's actually the correct size. Probably 16 is a US term, a US number. But yes, so it comes in this packet. I got this ages and ages ago. I never dared to use it, stupidly. So it comes in this package, which is quite battered. Again, it's been lying in my stash for in my arsenal for quite a while. But yeah, it's very, very easy to use. You do need a hammer for this. So I do have an unusual part of my... yeah, I don't usually have this on my sewing table, but hey, why not? I do have, you know, screwdrivers for my sewing machine, so you know. So yes, this is a great little thing. You put it on the table, lay your first snap here, your fabric over there, over the snap, and then you put this middle part to secure it, and then you add the top part of the snap, and then you put this on top of it, and then you just hit on it with a hammer. So it worked really, really well. It was a lot quicker, and yeah, also a lot less hard on the hands, I felt, than the cam pliers that you have to use, and you really have to work it hard with your hands. So a win, total win. So yes, I really, really love this. I'm very, very happy I made it. I do hope my friend Julie will like it, and that her lovely daughter will enjoy wearing it. It's super soft, this organic cotton. So it's a great pattern. I'm definitely going to use it again, probably for my son as well, because my son has the chubbiest, most delicious legs, and he's going to look super, super cute in it. Lise also mentioned something like that in her podcast, that she was looking forward to making short things for her son for summer, so to see his chubby legs. So yes. So yes, that's a really good, it was very enjoyable to make. I really like the placket and all the details. Everything is really well finished. So a very, very good pattern that I recommend. Honestly, I've never been frustrated with the Brindille and Twig pattern. I love all of their patterns. They run sales several times a year. There's definitely a Thanksgiving sale that I never miss. That's typically where I get my patterns. They're modern patterns, functional, practical, comfortable for the kids. I mean, what else do you need, really? And they tend to have these patterns to showcase beautiful printed fabrics. They use a lot of Parpy fabrics for their prototypes, so that's always very enticing. So in terms of my future plans, I'm definitely going to make another of these, or maybe a couple of others. And then I do want to make some shorts and a t-shirt for my son in the fox fabric that I showed last time. Very deep turquoise fabric. So I have a plain solid turquoise to go with it. So I'm going to make the shorts in the solid and the t-shirt in the printed fox fabric, and he's going to be super, super cute in that. So I very much look forward to this. I'm going to use the banded pants patterns by Brandy and Twig again, which is I think their latest design, which I'm going to do short as shorts, and then I'm going to do their ringer tee for the t-shirt. I'm just going to omit there is a band at the bottom of the t-shirt, but I'm not going to add this. So yes, and of course, because the weather has turned and it's spring, I'm super inspired to make all the summer clothes now. We really do have a very short transitional season in Montpellier. We really move, you know, from winter or, you know, cold weather to right into summer temperatures really. So I've already been wearing, I started wearing my summer dresses this week, which is always a joy. And so I do want to make a couple of dresses. Maybe I do have the Charlotte dress planned that I sew over it. I think it was their first pattern of the year of 2018. I have the fabric for it. I don't have it here because it's in the wash actually. It's a gorgeous deep fuchsia fabric, cotton poplin, which is going to be beautiful, I think. And I think I'm going to make the leaf dress, robe leaf rather, because it's from a French designer by Dessine-moi un patron, which came out last week, and my friend Lise was among the testers for this dress, and her dress is an absolute stunner, and it's just perfect with this, you know, beautiful floral print, large floral print, and she looks exquisite in it. So I'm very much inspired to probably make one of my own, even though that would definitely throw all my Make 12 plans, but that's completely okay. I'm not sure what fabric I would use for this, because I think it adds for, so of course I will have been inserting a picture, but it is a wrap dress, but it wraps in the back, which I love, it does ask, because it's a wrap dress, it does ask for quite an important meterage, so I'm not sure I have a piece of fabric that might be enough for this. I do have to check and see. Maybe I do though, this blue one. Can you see this? Yeah. So I might use this cotton broadcloth, because I know I have loads of this. I have, I think, 5 meters, because I wanted to have enough for my daughter as well to make us matching dresses. So that might be an option if I want a plain dress. But after seeing Lise's beautiful floral version, I might want to go for a floral one, but I'm not sure what I could use here really. These are more wintry fabrics, and I don't have enough anyway. So yeah, we'll see. I really don't want to buy fabric at the moment, so yeah, we'll see. I'll just make the my beautiful Charlotte dress first, and then we'll see. So yes, anyway, as always, as is the case every year, I'm super inspired by the arrival of the warm weather to get sewing more, and of course to make my favourite item ever, which is summer dresses. Yeah, so now let's move on to a bit of knitting. So if you remember last time, if you did watch the previous episode, I was waiting on some yarn from Blacker Yarns, because I'd made a mistake when I was at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I had purchased what I thought was 4-ply of their Lioness range, and I didn't. I got the DK, so I had the yarn exchanged. I sent my yarn back, and they did send out the replacement, but whilst waiting I didn't want to start on any other garment, because that's really the garment I wanted to knit on, was my Lioness garment, and this is super unusual for me, I knit only on socks, and so I did make some progress on the socks I showed you last time. I think last time I showed you this finished sock by, which is the Twas the Night Before Christmas by Danny of Little Bobbins, out of a Homespun House Christmas at Hardwoods colourway. This was my Christmas Eve cast on, and I made some good progress on my second sock since it's almost finished, and I'm just reaching now the part when I must start decreasing for the toe. so that's good. And I hugely have hugely enjoyed knitting on these. You have a slip stitched heel for these with this very neat toe that is specific to Danny's designs, which I really love. They are perfect, they fit me perfectly, these toes. So yes, I look forward to having them done so that I can put them in my sock drawer ready for the cold season. I also did achieve some progress on Seb's socks, which is another design by Danny. It's the Cyril socks. I didn't manage as much progress because I was very motivated to knit on mine because I was almost done with them, and you know I don't do well with having too many projects on the needle. I'm not a polygamous knitter. I'm very driven by one project at a time. So, but I did do some progress on this. I did knit for a few inches, and I think I'm also at the point when I start to decrease for the toe. I just need to have Seb tries this on so we can check it's long enough so I can decrease for the toe. And the yarn for this, the yarn that I'm using, I'm going to put it on the blocker as well. The yarn that I'm using is super special. It is Blacker yarns. They're Jacob yarn. So there you go. So the dark shade is Pale Green Granite, which is this shade. So it's a mild yarn with the darker bits of the sheep mixed with this shade. So of course these are a perfect match, and this shade is the Pale Green Clay, which is the non-mild yarn of this whole gradient of colours. I absolutely love this yarn. The yarn was initially sent to me for review by Blacker because I was very lucky to be part of the podcast lounge at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. But to finish the socks I did need to order a bowl of the Pale Green Clay. I definitely have enough of the darker bits since I have all of this left. But yeah, I knew I was going to run out of the Pale Green Clay because, you know, men's socks do take up some more yarn than socks for me. So yes, so very enjoyable project, but it did come to a screeching halt because I did receive my yarn on the very eve of our departure for the mountains, which was perfect timing because I really wanted to knit on my Lioness sweater during my holidays because I knew I would have more time and it would make a wonderful memory as well. And so that's exactly what I did. So just to finish on this design, so these are the Cyril socks by Danny, and they represent her engagement rings, which is super clever. So yes, I definitely want to make the Rita socks for myself as well, so that Seb and I have matching vintage love socks, really. So yes, so moving on now to the cornerstone of this episode, because this project has made me so happy over the past 10 days. And it is my Techno sweater by Boylan Knitworks, Caitlin Hunter, who is a very well-known designer, and I think this particular design is my favourite of her whole range. And it's even more special because it was a gift from my friend Kristin of the Yarngasm podcast. Hello Kristin! She gifted me this at Christmas, so it was super special. And she gifted me this as I was planning my Make 9, so it was perfect timing. And so I started this after we'd arrived in our mountains. On the evening we arrived, and this is my progress. So as you can see, I have knit quite a bit on it. It's a very loose sweater, you have a huge amount of ease at the bottom of the sweater. I'm knitting the size S because you do need a huge amount of ease also at the bust, and so yeah, the size S was best for me. Yeah, so I cannot tell you how much I have been enjoying knitting on this. It was the perfect holiday project because you have all that lace at the beginning, and so it was perfect because I did have more time than usual, so I was able to focus on it, and so many happy memories are knitted into this lace. I primarily knit this during my son's nap time. So typically we hiked in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so we picnicked in the mountains, and then we just came home, put our little boy to bed, and he did a huge nap because he was super tired, because he actually insisted on hiking with us, not simply being on our backs. He was obviously on our backs for quite especially my back, for long portions of the hikes, but he insisted on actually walking, and you know, these are very steep hikes, you know, with loads of rocks, big rocks to climb on, etc, etc, and he insisted on walking on these rocky paths, and he was completely amazing, really. Of course, he wants to do everything his older sister does, so he's super stimulated in this way. But it did mean that when we came home in the beginning of the afternoon, he was completely exhausted, just went to bed, went to sleep, and slept until 5 in the afternoon. So we had 3 quiet hours to ourselves, and we just spent then outside, because the place where we stayed had loads and loads of terraces, so it was absolutely blissful. And so my daughter was completely obsessed with playing cards, and you will have seen that, or you will be seeing this in the footage I will be including, but we spent hours and hours every day playing cards, playing a French game of cards, which is very, very popular here. And during all that time I was able to knit on the lace, and then to move on to the stockinette portion, and we had such a wonderful, wonderful time. So yes, regarding the lace, I didn't think it was difficult at all. You do need to pay attention, but I felt it was quite intuitive, and after a few repeats each round, I was definitely able to remember what I was supposed to be doing and not have to look at the chart anymore. I do recommend memorizing the chart. Well, personally anyway, I always find if I use the charts rather than the written instructions, then I memorize it more quickly, but then that might be because I'm a visual learner, so it might not be the case for everyone, but yeah, I'm a very visual learner. And so yeah, the only thing is you have knit 4 togethers in the decreases in the pattern, and knit 4 together is they're quite a beast. So the way I did it is I actually saw this on the project page. I did not actually knit them 4 together, but I knit them all and then put them back onto slid them back onto the left needle, and then cast off your stitches, and so you're left with 1 for the 4 stitches. I did include a link in my project page for you if you want to check this out, to a tutorial. I always forget to say this, but generally speaking, I do have very detailed Ravelry project pages. I always add a lot of details in my notes because I know this is really useful to others, but also for myself if I want to knit it again, you know. I like to have this as a reference, and I definitely want to knit this again. This is such an incredible joy to knit, and I definitely want to make another one in a winter yarn with long sleeves. So as it is right now, I knit the length that is required for the S size before dividing for the armholes. I actually knit more than this because this is going to stretch, and I measured the length before stretching, without blocking, because I knew then that it would get a bit longer. Because this is a rather cropped top, and I just felt it would be more versatile if it was a bit longer. So I'm just at the point when I'm going to divide for the armholes, and so not long to go now actually. I'm actually not sure I will be adding sleeves, because to me this is going to be a spring sweater, and I don't think I want sleeves. I did see a project that didn't knit the sleeves, the tube that you add at all, and I really liked it, so I might just do that. So I do plan on wearing this especially over long flowy skirts, so yes, to be continued. So as for the yarn, it is Lioness by Blacker Yarns. By now, of course, if you've already followed the podcast, you know how much I enjoy this yarn. I love this whole brand of yarns, of course, Blacker Yarns. And so this particular yarn is worsted span, and it's a 50-50 blend of linen and Corriedale and merino from the Falklands. So beautiful yarn, and the shade I'm using is Lapis. It's called Lapis, which is a light denim blue, I want to say. It's less saturated than what I can see on the website at Blacker, but that might be obviously my own screen. But I love the colour. I picked it up at Edinburgh, so without looking at the screen before at the website, so I actually fell in love with the shade in the flesh, so to speak. So I absolutely adore this shade, and I can't wait to wear this, to finish this and wear this. But it's an absolute joy. It's really, I'm going to remember this project as one of my most wonderful makes, I think, processes of 2018, I think. So yes, that is it for my knitting, and I'd like to move on now to a very new segment, which is weaving. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will already have seen this, because one of the other very exciting things that I did whilst we were on holidays was to start weaving. So I need to blame two friends for this, two fellow makers, and they are Grace of the Babbles Travelling Yarns podcast in Ireland. Hi Grace, who is Vanavilla Meal on Instagram, and Kristin of the Yarngasm podcast. So Kristin was inspired by Grace and started weaving, but I also was following Grace, and so I also was very inspired by her own loom weaving. So after giving it a lot of thought, I just decided to get a loom as well. I had been wanting one, really. I had been itching to get one for a couple of years, really. And so I looked at all the options that you had online, and in the end I ended up getting the same that Grace has, which is the Ashford Sample It loom. So here it is, and it is the 16-inch, which is 40 centimeters wide loom. So the Sample It has two possible heights. Let me put it in the neutral position. So it has two possible heights, and this is the wider one. And I think I mentioned last time I podcast that this was really appealing to me, because actually on this you can do double weaving and then have an 80 centimeters wide fabric, which is convenient for sewing actually. And also I just liked having a wider kind of scarf. I think it's much more my style. It really is a lot like a scarf, really, a shawl, really. And so I also, along with it, and they are very affordable looms. They are definitely the most affordable looms out there. So you do get them unassembled, so you do have to build them and finish them as well. The wood isn't finished, so I finished it with the wax that is actually the one that Ashford cells as well, which is a very, very natural wax with a lovely smell as well. And so yeah, it was really not difficult at all to build. I really do enjoy this kind of thing actually. And the other thing, the extra thing I did get with it is this reed, because the loom comes with the 30-10 reed. So meaning you have 30 teeth, you have 30 dents per 10 centimeters, and this is the 60-10 reed, so you have 60 teeth, 60 dents rather, per 10 centimeters, which is 15 per inch, I guess, in American measurements. And so I wanted this particular reed because it's more suited to lace weight and fingering weight, and that's mostly what I want to be focusing on. I really do like fine weaving, the look of fine weaving. And so the most difficult, I really do enjoy this immensely, absolutely, you know, immensely. And I did follow a Craftsy class, which is their startup library class on rigid heddle looms by Deborah Jarko. She's a great instructor. I really did like her style very, very much. She's super enthusiastic as well. Yeah, it was a great class because not only does she guide you through the whole process of selecting a loom, setting it up, etc., etc., but also fixing your mistakes, which I think is invaluable when you're learning. So the warping took a lot of time because I made this as long as my table would allow. So you put the peg, the weaving peg at one end, the warping peg rather, at one end of your table, and then you attach your loom to the other end of the table, and my table is 150 centimeters, pretty much my height, my own height. So I figured that was good. It's good, I think, to have scarves that are about your height, because it's pretty much your arm span as well, isn't it? Even though once it is off the loom, you always lose quite a few centimeters, so it's not going to be that long. But I did want to, next time I will make it even longer and just have the loom on my table and then use a chair as a warping tool, really. But it was a long time, it took a long time to warp because I have such a fine reed, so there are so many teeth, so many dents in there, so it took a lot of time to warp. And for the warp I am using a Homespun House Barkun in the Dewdrop shade. And the reason for this is this is a yarn I purchased quite a few years ago, and it was sold as a tonal, but what I received rather was more of a variegated yarn with, hopefully you can see this, I'm not sure you can, but so I'm not sure how much this will be focusing on how well you will be seeing the shades, but this is more of a variegated yarn with a blue base, a light blue base, but with turquoise and pinks and purple variations or speckles in it, which is lovely in itself, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And I had purchased this yarn to make a cardigan, but I just never, I don't know, and whenever I tried to swatch or start it, it just didn't click because it wasn't as neutral as I would have liked it to be. But then I thought it would be perfect for a weaving project, because then you would have all the interest of the variation in the yarn. And so, because the warp is really my favourite yarn, is really the yarn I want to give more focus on, I am using a lighter weight yarn for the weft. So the weft is what you actually weave through once you've warped your loom. And so for the weft I am using also something from my stash, and it is, so here is my shuttle. So it is Alpaca Superlight by Lang Yarns, which is, and the shade is 7. And so it's a very light lilac, really, yeah. And so it's quite hairy, and I also really like that because I felt it would give an interesting texture to the finished result. And so, you know, it's this kind of very, very fine yarn with a lot of halo to it. So yeah, so I'm very, very happy with this choice. It really is turning out well, and you can definitely see the warp a lot more than the weft, which is exactly what I was looking for, what I was going for. So I think I am about, how long do I have still to go? I think I'm about 2/3 of the way or 3/4 of the way done, which is quite exciting, and it really is quite fast. I mean, what really takes a lot of time is the warping, but once you start weaving, it really is quite fast. And I must say, I actually really enjoyed the warping as well. I thought it was going to be such a chore, but it's actually quite fun to do the warping. You just need to be aware that it's going to take some time, and you just need to find this window of time to do it. But after that, it was fine. So I just warped it before we left, so that I knew I could just weave it whilst we were on holidays. In terms of how much yardage this is taking, the warp is taking a lot of yardage, and I think, okay, let me see, I do have the ball somewhere. Yes. So I had 2 balls of the this fingering weight yarn from a Homespun House, and this is what I have left of the 2 balls, which is 60 grams. So it used 140 grams for to warp, and actually I used a tool online that I found by googling, which is weaving calculator. It's on a website called Weavolution. And it actually was spot on. The requirements that they anticipated I should need was absolutely spot on. So that was really great. Kristen also mentioned this website on her latest episode, because it seems to, and I wasn't even aware of this. I just found the website through the weaving calculator, and that's the only thing I used from the website. But because Kristen mentioned it as some sort of a small weaving rivalry, then I just investigated it this weekend, and I did realise you do have a whole part to the website which is some sort of a community really of weaving, which is quite lovely. So yes, that is it for my new ventures in weaving. I'm enjoying this, and I have so many ideas of what I could weave on it, especially, you know, all the yarns from my stash which I haven't really found a use for yet. I do have quite a bit of Noro in my stash from the very first month really, when I started to knit, because Noro back then was all the rage. I was super fascinated by these colour changes, but of course it didn't quite suit my style after all. So I have a bit of Noro in my stash that I got more than half price back then, and so I think that would make really nice scarves. Also I have a few skeins of more speckled yarn that I think would be completely gorgeous as well to showcase. It really is lovely the way yarn shows through the weaving. It's quite different from when you're knitting with it, especially anything that is variegated or speckled. It's quite lovely, and you don't have any risk of pooling or anything. It's really quite nice. So yes, on that note friends, thank you so very, very much for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed. So until next time friends, I do hope your making brings you joy. Bye bye!